Right, today we're going to take a look at solving quadratic equations. We looked at factoring already, and that is one method that we can use to solve when the quadratic is factorable. So I'm going to quickly go over that because we've already solved using, we've already factored before, we just haven't taken the extra step to solve. So let's take a look at an example. Okay, so first let's look at solving by factor. Okay, let's say we have x squared plus 3x equals 54. First thing that we need to do is make sure that our quadratic is always equal to 0. We want to have everything on one side and 0 on the other in order to be able to solve, no matter which method we're using. So let's subtract 54 over to the other side. Now we have our quadratic equal to 0. So if we take a look at this one, if we want to try to solve by factoring, we would need two numbers that add together to equal 3. And same two numbers would have to multiply together to equal negative 54. Okay? So think about, go through your factors. It may take a while. We might be a little rusty with these, but we should see pretty quickly that 9 and negative 6 will work. Okay? Now, when factoring, we just place these numbers in with the parentheses. We have it equal to 0. That's our new step. Because we're equal to 0, we're not done just when we factor. We need to set each one equal to 0. X plus 9 equal to 0 and x minus 6 equal to 0. To solve for this one, we would simply subtract the 9 over, so x would equal negative 9. Over here, we would add the 6 over, so x would equal positive 6. So our two solutions would be negative 9 and positive 6. So the big thing is, if you solve using factoring, once you have your two factors, you need to set each of those equal to 0 and solve for x. That's the extra step when you solve by factoring. Another method for solving that we're going to talk about that you may or may not have seen already is called the quadratic formula. Okay, so whenever we have ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0, which is our standard form of our quadratic equation, to solve for this, and here's where the quadratic formula comes in, you can take negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That formula will allow you to solve any quadratic equation, whether you can factor or not. So some people prefer the quadratic formula, and again, you can use that on any quadratic equation. Let's take a look at an example. Okay. Let's say we have 2x squared minus 4x minus 17 equals 0. If we were to try to factor this one, nothing would work out. Nothing is going to add to negative 4 that also multiplies to negative 34. Okay, those would be the numbers we were looking at. So it's not able to be solved by factoring. So we would have to use quadratic formula in order to solve this one. So let's plug into our formula. I'm going to write it out here to the side. If it helps you, feel free to label your numbers. Okay, so let's solve for x. Negative b. b is negative 4 already, so that's going to become a positive 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 4 squared, minus 4ac, so minus 4 times 2 times negative 17, all of that over 2a. Okay, let's do some simplifying. Okay, negative 4 squared is going to be positive 16. Anytime we square a number, it's positive. Negative 4 or minus 4 times 2 times negative 17, that's going to be plus 136 all over 2 times a. So, oh, I forgot to put in the a last time. That was silly. Okay, that would have been 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. Now, some people will make the mistake and they'll go ahead and cancel terms here. You cannot do that, okay? a lot of times we kind of think of these two terms on top, they're married. You can't split them up. So don't go ahead and try to divide one without dividing the other. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Don't simplify too early. All right, let's add our two numbers inside the square root. 16 plus 136 should give us 152 all over 4. Now, 152 is not a perfect square. So here's what I would do. One time, add this square root and divide, and one time subtract the square root and divide. Okay? When we do that, we get two solutions for x. We end up with 4.082, and we end up with negative 2.082. Those are our two solutions for x. If you struggle typing things into the calculator, just be careful about parentheses. A lot of times, I'll go back really quick and show you. A lot of times, I'll just type in the top 4 plus square root of 152, hit enter, and then divide by 4. Okay, same for the other one. That way, you just don't have to worry about any square roots or typing something in incorrectly. If you type it all in at once, a lot of times people will make the mistake and they'll just divide the square root of 152 by 4 and not the entire top. All right, let's try one more using quadratic equation, and then we'll look at an application problem. Actually, let's go ahead and just look at an application problem. We'll do it all at once because we'll end up using quadratic as well. Okay, so let's say that we have a rectangle given to us, and we have some expressions for length and width, and they tell us that the area is 116 square centimeters, and they want us to find the value of x. So we're going to have to make an equation, and then we're going to have to solve it. So think about area of a rectangle is either however you want to think of it, length times width or base times height, however you want to think of it. So area is 116, and then our length is x minus 3, and our width is x, or base and height, however, again. So let's try to solve this out. Let's distribute. X times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is minus 3x. Okay, now we should be able to solve this. Our problem is we don't have it equal to 0, so let's subtract that 116 over. Okay, this is not going to factor evenly. Nothing adds to negative 3 that multiplies to 116, so we need to use quadratic formula. Negative b would be positive 3 plus or minus square root of negative 3 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 116, all over 2 times a, which is 1. Okay, let's go ahead and simplify inside the square root. Negative 3 squared is going to be positive 9. And then negative 4 times 1 times negative 116 is 464. Let's go ahead and add those. 9 plus 464 gives us 473, which is not a perfect square. Okay, if we solve this, let's see what we'd get. If we add the square root of 473 and then divide by 2, we get 12.374. If we subtract, we get 3 minus square root of 473 divided by 2. We get negative 9.374. Now, here's where we have to have a little common sense. Can we have a negative length? No. So this negative 9.374 is not going to work. So our final answer for x is going to be 12.374 centimeters. Okay, let's try one more application problem like this. We'll look at a triangle. Let's say that they give us a triangle. Again, bear with me with my drawing here. Let's say they tell us the height is x, and this base is x plus 12. And then they tell us that the area is 72 square inches. And they want us to find the value of x again. So big thing we have to know is formula for area of a triangle, 1/2 base times height. Let's plug in what we know. 1/2 times x plus 12 times x. We can distribute the 1/2 and the x simultaneously. So we're plugging in 1/2 x times both of these two terms. 1/2 x times x is 1/2 x squared. 1/2 x times 12 is 6x. Now we have a quadratic. Let's move that 72 over so we can solve. 1/2 x squared plus 6x minus 72 equal to 0. Now let's solve for x. Again, we got to use quadratic formula. So x equals negative b, which is negative 6, plus or minus square root of b squared, so 6 squared, minus 4 times a times c, all over 2a, 2 times 1/2. Oh, that's nice. 2 times 1/2 is just 1, so we don't have to deal with the bottom anymore. So we have negative 6 plus or minus square root of 6 squared is 36. Negative 4 times 1/2 times negative 72 is 144. 36 plus 144 is 180. So we have negative 6 plus or minus square root of 180. Let's plug in, see what we get. When we add square root of 180 to negative 6, we end up with 7.416. Got the 1 there. When we subtract, we end up with negative 19.416. Okay, again, we cannot have a negative length, so that negative answer is out. So 7.416 inches is the length of x. Okay, we're going to do a lot of practice with this type of stuff, so look out for that and make sure that you are working through those problems. Feel free to ask any questions if you have any.